Good. COVID. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All the noble folk are here for a pleasant time. I'm going to kick off by doing, I'm going to look at like 7 tips for getting your life in order. I'm going to do this really quickly. Can you let me know in the comments if you can hear me okay? And let me know whether you want this to have a Gnostic angle or a Sufi angle. You can choose Gnostic. You can choose Sufi. You can't choose Goofy. You can't choose Sostic. I'm going to totally edit this beginning up, I think. You can hear? You can hear. Splendid. Marvelous. Okay. When we're looking at sorting our lives out, because a lot of people, I feel, one of the major issues that comes up again and again is people feel like their lives have descended into a kind of chaos, and that they feel as though they have less and less control, and that they're not making progress. It's essential for a human being, in order for them to feel okay, in order for them to feel like, you know, life makes sense and is in order, that they're making progress. So remember that. You must be making progress in your life in order to feel okay, in order to feel like, you know, you're doing the right thing and you're going along the right path. The first tip I would offer you is this: whatever it is that you're doing, try to move away from the unconscious to the conscious. So if you notice that you're reacting from thoughtlessly, or you're coming from emotion, say if there's something that #triggers you. I don't like using the verb trigger because I feel like it externalizes our locus of control. But say if you notice something that provokes you, it stimulates you mindlessly, thoughtlessly, into a very intense emotion, that's typically a sign that we've hit a point on your map, on our maps, that Jung would have referred to as the shadow. Try to make things conscious. Try to apply critical reasoning. Why do I feel this way? Why am I saying this? Are these my words or are these somebody else's words? Because what I've noticed as well, it's perfectly possible for people to hold entire conversations and entire discussions and arguments just using trite platitudes, repeating brainwashed propaganda that they've heard from somebody else. And these are all symptoms of being ideologically infected. So if you're trying to get your life in order, try to come away from the unconscious, the thoughtless, the habit-based, the emotions-based, the animal-based stuff, and try to rise up to the point where you're consciously aware of what you're doing. Whatever you do, have a good philosophical reason for doing it. Number 2, generally speaking, the things that you put into order will make you feel like you have your life together. Now, is chaos necessary? It's yin and yang. We need an integration and we need balance. Too much order, things become stultified and boring, and there's no juice, there's no jazz. That's the point of jazz. You can improvise, you can flow around and under and next to the structure of the music that you're supposed to be playing and listening to, and that's fun. But you can't run a life like that. Like, you cannot structure your life like a jazz solo. I really need to remember these things that should go on t-shirts. I'm going to start putting them on t-shirts. You cannot structure. When I write my Jordan Peterson version of like Richard's 14 rules for life, that'll be one of them. You cannot run your life like a jazz solo. Well, you can. And many of us, many of you here have already run that experiment. Where does it lead? How does it feel? What are the good sides of it? You know, the good sides of it, you're improvising, you're on your toes, you're sparring with life. This happens, the drama kicks off, you've got to respond, you've got stories to tell. It's exciting, but perhaps it's also exhausting, and perhaps it doesn't lead anywhere. And perhaps after 3 months, 3 years, or 3 decades of running that cycle, you don't have very much to show for it. We only get one life. So if you're trying to put yourself in an ordered structure, generally speaking, I would say find the areas of your life that are chaotic, that lack a plan, that lack discipline, and apply some order to them. You've heard me bang this drum a lot. Generally speaking, In our culture, people are way too passive, way too passive. They're way too unconscious and they're way too passive. And passivity and unconsciousness breeds chaos. It's a fertile breeding ground for a chaotic way of approaching life. So this will be hard. This is the Nietzschean struggle, right? Because for Nietzsche, as for Kierkegaard, they identified, if you go with the flow, if you go with the other jellyfish, you're going to go where the other jellyfish go. Wherever they flow, wherever they go, that's where you go as well. And it's dangerous. You can't do what everybody else is doing, because as you look around, well, what do your friends have? Like, what does your family have? Everybody's divorced. People aren't very well. They're overweight. They're unhappy. They're cranky. They got scars. Their lives are full of drama, and so on and so forth. And some of this is normal and natural. And yes, into every life, a little rain will fall. We shouldn't have it normalized that people's lives are just passive, consumerist, pleasure-seeking chaos. That's not normal, and it's not healthy. There are so many, I won't get into this just now, but there are so many things that I'm waking up to that we have as normal in our culture that are preposterous, that are just totally beyond absurd. If you look at the cost to payment ratio of them, like the fuss we make about banning people from taking drugs, and yet we have this totally open, permissive, liberal, progressive attitude towards sex. Well, I'm like, you know, what's the worst? I won't get into the rant now, but we'll get into that rant later. We're not we have the pretense of being community minded and of thinking for the collective, but it is just a pretense. We're actually pretty rigidly and toxically individualistic, but with the pretense of, you know, wokeness, compassion, collectivism for the good of the all, but it really isn't. Try as much as you can to go from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control. This is a term from psychology. If you have an externalized locus of control, you're operating from a narrative in which the power in your life, the agency in your life, is outside of you. Typically, victimhood narratives are like this. It's being done to me. There's nothing I can do. It's just happening. It's just, or, you know, either people will identify and say, it's those communists who are doing this to me, damn it, those red bastards. Or they'll just go, it just happens to me, or it's luck, or it's fate, or it's fortune, or, you know, whatever. That's an external locus of control. Being passive, being chaotic, being unconscious leads you to having an external locus of control. An internal locus of control is where you're living a narrative where the majority of the power in your life is in you. The majority of agency in your life is with you. The majority for decision-making capability in your life is not with the communists or the capitalists or the identified other. It's you. It's just you for your life. People will typically push back on this one and go, no, you don't know my Livington's experience. My lived experience trumps all the reason. No, it doesn't. You see, actually, that's wrong, because it just doesn't. It just doesn't. Your individual lived experience is important in a therapeutic context, but it is not that important in a rational philosophical context at all. Because my lived experience might be, I was beaten up by communists, so therefore every communist is going to beat me up, right? I was beaten up by capitalists, so therefore every capitalist is going to beat me up. Lived experience is an appalling way to try and understand the world in any way that's meaningful. But it's interesting. Your lived experience is that you write a novel, or you know, write a book. I'll read it. I'll read your crazy lived experience. I mean, my God, I just thought of an example of an unconscious, chaotic, and toxically passive version of life that I used to love reading when I was a kid. William S. Burroughs. You know, he's a creative. He was a drug addict. He was a junkie. And he just lived off the cuff, as we saw by the fact that he ended up shooting his wife in the head, doing a party trick. Fairly irresponsible, probably fairly low on conscientiousness on the scale. Fascinating reading. Absolutely fascinating reading. I'll pull out a William S. Burroughs impression at any moment. It's coming. I can feel it. But you couldn't structure your life. You couldn't structure a society based on the lived experience of William Seward Burroughs. That would be a terrible, terrible mistake. But you'd be like, well, it's his lived experience. So it's like, yeah, but we're not all obsessed with postulating alien space pirates sodomizing the corpses of, heroin addicted boys whilst firing unlikely, bizarrely constructed pistols into the multiverse. William S. Burroughs was, and that was his lived experience as a junkie and as a drug user and as a writer of tales. That was his thing. So generally speaking, we want to try to take that locus of control and we want to internalize it. If you believe the things that are happening in your life are happening to you and you have no agency whatsoever, there's no point in you going to therapy, going to coaching, or watching videos like this. You will be fucked and stucked. Stucked and fucked is how you will remain, because that belief will block anything else from coming in. I am just a jellyfish bobbing along. I'm so good. I am the beautiful soul, the Hegelian beautiful soul, and terrible things are happening to me because, the world is just a bad place full of bad people. Really? You couldn't say no once in a while? You couldn't maybe just, instead of bobbing along, choose a direction and paddle towards it? Just throwing out ideas, just random crazy ideas. Okay. I think that we are very, very, very entrained to be receptive. This starts in school. School is you open your brain and bored, depressed, often suicidal, middle-aged people whose lives didn't work out very well, shove information created by a school board of incompetent, blithering, librarian-type nincompoops that is content that will serve you very, very, very little usage in the real world. That's the education system in a nutshell. Worked in it for 5 years, know a little bit about what I'm talking about. It's a fucking mess. And it entrains us to being receptive. Television, social media, it entrains you to consume content. It turns you into a mouth and an anus. It turns you into a pipe, a mouth and a bumhole. That's all you are. You're a pipe. It's the human centipede writ large. You take stuff in, you consume it, you poop it out, and you move on. And that's all your value in the culture. If you are passive and you let this happen to you, it probably already is happening to you. You're being reduced to a poop pipe. I like the way this video is going already. I don't know about you guys. Ideology to philosophy. If you want to sort your life out, you must develop a philosophy. You must develop your own way of looking at the world. And it needs to have meaning. You must have values. And I would suggest, as a white belt level starter, you should decide between good and bad. You should decide this is a good thing, this is a bad thing. I will have this in my life, even if it hurts to have it in my life because I've deemed it good. I will not have this in my life, even if it feels good, because it is bad. And then you must refuse the bad. You let your no be a no and your yes be a yes. Have boundaries. Yes to the good things, no to the bad things, even if you lose out. If you don't, you're a perfect target for psychological predators, financial predators, and sharks. Ideology is not philosophy. In my personal opinion, ideology is essentially what Gad Saad describes in The Parasitic Mind. All ideologies are parasitic. All ideologies function like malware, spyware. They are viruses. They get into the system, and then they function like very, very weak artificial intelligence. They offer you trite, aphoristic answers of extraordinarily low resolution to extremely complicated problems. And they're usually egotistic. They're usually driven by a desire to make you look good and make you feel good. That is not philosophy. If you are a philosopher and you are pursuing truth and you're pursuing reason, and the way you used to see the world is found to be a load of old nonsense, you get your ass kicked and you get very sad and you get very traumatized, and then you leave it behind. Ideology cannot do that. It's too robotic, it's too machine-like, and it lacks the capability for that. You must move away from ideology to philosophy. Let me scare you a little bit. If you don't have an active philosophy of life that you're working on, what you have instead is ideology. If you haven't chosen how to live, somebody else has chosen for you. To a man, to a woman, to a cat, to a mouse, every human being watching this right now, sans exception, is subject to ideology unless they've fought it off with a philosophy. And even the best philosophers amongst us will still be susceptible to ideology. You'll still find little bits and pieces of ideological junk in the room as you clean it perpetually. Junkies simply cannot abide the feeling of water on their skin. Egotism to psychedelic humility. This is the last tip that I would offer you. I was listening to Terence McKenna yesterday. He was talking about a group, a tribe that lived on not papaya, something else that we get, plantains, and that you have to fry them. And they had that as like 80% of their diet. And when they left the tribe and went to the city, every single one of them, when they came off this diet, went completely visibly insane in a way that was very, very obvious. And everybody around them was like, you've gone bonkers. And this led to a lot of pontification about, along my lines, like we need the tribe, we need to be seen, we need to interact with one another. When you move to a city, cities are poisonous and the city will kill you. And he said that he felt like it was probably something to do with that diet's effect on the brain. He moved from that point. This is the early 90s. He's talking. I was listening to it yesterday. He moved from that point to say that he felt like human beings had evolved to take psychedelics, and that I don't know whether this is true. It's Terence. We let Terence say whatever he wants because he's Terence McKenna and he's just got special permission to go wherever he wants with no basis whatsoever. Well, he came up with a hypothesis, which I think is an interesting model for viewing human behavior. That we, like that tribe, had evolved to regularly take large doses of psychedelics, and that the effect of the psychedelics was to eradicate our egotism. And that when we moved away from that lifestyle and we no longer had access to regular psychedelics, our ego became wildly out of control. And what we're suffering with right now is rampant egotism due to a lack of psychedelics in our society. Okay, do I literally believe that that's true? I'm really not sure, but the term psychedelic doesn't just mean drugs, it means mind expanding. So if you can have your mind expanded by a book or by traveling or by speaking to somebody new or by having a new experience, the experience of having your mind expanded will usually breed humility. We must push back against ego. I'm not talking even about narcissism now. I'm talking about egotism, rampant, toxic, self-focused, self-obsessed individualism where you can't see anything else but you. It's poison. It's totally poisonous. Psychedelic humility would be the kind of humility where when you've had a psychedelic experience, be it through drugs or anything else, you're knocked off your feet and you look at the world afterwards and you say, wow, wow, wow. If we're not saying wow, we're probably lost in egotism. If we're not looking at nature, if we're not looking at this world, if we're not looking at the wonders that just pour out in front of our eyes every day and saying, wow, something has gone wrong. Something has been damaged. Something has been lost. Terence would say, it's the mushrooms. I'm not sure. I know that we have lost a certain reverence for life, and that this is why we desperately need God back. How we get him back from where we are, I've no idea. I've no idea how you non-naively get God back in your life. That was my introduction. Now we shall move to the live Q&A. Anybody want to hit me with a question? Go right ahead. Please make it, one sentence long. Have an end and a question mark. I will drink this bull's wee. So listen, with your long worded questions full of multisyllabic words. Here we go. I'm confused by your approach to individualism. You seem to elevate the notion of collectivism while extolling the need for individual agency. This seems mutually exclusive. No, it is not. It is not. It is not. It is not. This is a sickness of the time we live in. This is what Gad Saad refers to as epistemological dichotomania, which is splitting everything in reality into a this or that, option one or option two. I'm pretty convinced, because I had a revelation in the shower when I was washing myself with my two hands, that this is because we have two hands. So we have a left-wing party and a right-wing party. Or you could take a blue pill or a red pill in the Matrix. Did you know that Baudrillard was quite grumpy about that? He said it was nonsensical to reduce everything down to just one, to just two options. We should become the most powerful, strong individuals that we can possibly be. And then we should build strong tribal bonds in a society that is made up of strong individuals. That's how strength works. Every bolt, every part in the engine is individually strong. And then when it all works together, it is more powerful than the sum of its parts. Thank you, Katie, for that question. I liked it. What's option 3, says Carol Barger. It's not the red or blue pill. I want a third pill. Or what? Mr. Sneefy. Question. Does Biden whispering his pseudo-achievements display a narcissistic, passive-aggressive, sociopathic trait? I listened to the audio of that again the other day because I heard it. Right, get this. And it freaked me out so much, but I didn't really register that it freaked me out, that I started dreaming that I was doing that. And as I was dreaming, I was voiceovering my dream in a whisper, like it was somebody talking behind my ear. And I really hated it. It then became a nightmare. When I listened to him doing it again, I think that, you know, whatever you believe, whatever your political stance is, whether you like Biden or not, I think that he is in cognitive decline. I think that he's not fully compos mentis. And I'm not going to mock a man who's neurologically degenerating with Alzheimer's or whatever else. My grandmother had it before. But loads of people here will have had elderly relatives who've been through the same thing. What it says about him being in charge is another question. When I listened to it back, what I heard was he's quite Biden's. I think he thinks of himself as quite hip. He's quite cool, man. He's quite a cool dude, man. Come on, man. And I think he would love to be funny, and I think he would love to be slick and loved, and you know, he'd love to be that guy. Unfortunately he's never going to be that guy. And I think his brain, wherever it's up to right now, caught on the whispery thing, thought it was funny, and like a bad stand-up comedian, like a hack, he kept pressing the button, even though nobody was laughing. Like nobody thought that was cool. And his brain, in a sort of a stress spiral, was just like, explain it to explain it to them again like this, Joe. Yeah. And it was like, as you said, it's narcissistic, passive aggressive because of the tone he was using. It was like, I'm talking to you like your children now, but not 5 times. And not, it wasn't appropriate to the context. He wasn't talking to his enemies. It was totally out of context. He's got to be cognitive decline. But if you want to take the narcissistic passive aggressive thing, there is an unfortunate tendency where you see a kind of, in that, you know, I've said multiple times, I'm a leftist, but in America particularly, amongst the left party in America, there is a kind of a snooty, passive aggressive, we'll laugh at you, we'll talk down to you thing. And I can't believe any of them are still using it after what it did to Hillary. It's a real mistake. It's such a rapport killer, such a rapport killing thing to do. That kind of thing is funny very, very once in a while. And you really need to hit the exact note, and you must make people laugh, because if you're not, you just sound like he did, which was, you know, it wasn't good. My God, it wasn't good. Question. I've been watching your older vids, and in one you mentioned your MBTI was ENTP. Aren't you an introvert though? Yeah, well, it tells you a lot about the MBTI, doesn't it? Because I did it again a year and a half ago. And yeah, I was an introvert. I don't rate it, mate. I have to be honest. I never really have. I think it's slightly interesting, but you're talking to a man, and I won't go off on this here because it's not fair, and people want to ask other questions. You know, when people talk about personality, I just don't believe there is one. I just don't believe that people have. I don't think people have a personality in the way that our culture tends to think about it. I think it's an illusion, and these MBTI scores, when they're put under clinical conditions, prove that. If you want to look at, if you go to Google Scholar and you look at MBTI critique or MBTI review, you'll see published papers there. They've done it again and again and again, and people just change. A significant number of people slide across the scale of the MBTI very, very significantly. That's the only thing you care about in psychological experimentation and research, inside of 6 months, which makes it about as useful as astrology. So astrology is useful, but it's not a scientific predictor of behavior. So there we go. Did you watch Russell Brand speak to Edward Snowden, and do you agree? I watch pretty much every Edward Snowden interview I can find. I don't know whether I would say I agree or not. I think Edward Snowden is a super intelligent guy, and he speaks a lot of truth, and I enjoy hearing him speak. Question from Cheryl. What do you mean by how should a person live? Are you asking us to judge for ourselves or to judge for others? Can you let me know, guys, in the comments if this question resonates with you? This is for my personal research. When you read this question, are you like, I thought the same thing? Like, what does that mean? The reason why I'm asking, just let me know. I'll keep an eye on the comments to how many people resonate with this. This idea, like, if we don't have central to our culture a sense of how a person should live, we are fucked. We are beyond fucked. Like, I know, Cheryl, you've been following me for a long time. You know, I'm not that fussed about, or previously I wasn't fussed about Jung. Now I'm more interested in Jung. But the archetypes thing, I could care less about archetypes. But in a culture where you assume people are going to live together, so there's how the individual should be, and then there's how a culture is. In a culture, if we have no sense of how we should live, or what a person should do with their life, how well is that culture going to do? How long is it going to go on for? Do you know what I mean? If you look at, like, if you're a Tentacle Croissant fan, you will have heard me say this already. Whilst watching stuff on YouTube, I ran into a channel called something like Ancient Navajo Teachings, which I recommend. There's tons of stuff on YouTube that I've only just run into, where they have old First Nation peoples like Cherokee, Navajo, talking about the old ways of doing things. The ancient wisdom for how to run a culture and how to run a society is fascinating. It's really fascinating. Not always politically correct. Certainly not, wouldn't vibe with like 2021 standards of progressivism at all. But what I would just say is like, it shouldn't be alien to anybody to ask themselves the question, how should I live? And if it is, and I think there's a few people here who agree with you, and there are a few people who say no. I think but this is not a good sample, because people are on like a channel called Richard Granham Philosophy, and we're talking like psychology and philosophy. I think many people haven't got a clue either. They really don't know. To the second part of your question, am I asking you to judge for yourselves or for others? Well, let me turn this question back on you. This is a very philosophy thing to do. If you don't know how to live, how are you living? Like, by what rules are you living currently? And I don't mean you, like you, Cheryl. I mean one. If one, it sounds like the Queen then. If one does not know how to live, if one simply has no rules, Philip, how are you living? Like, you just free, you just go, hey, whoa, what are we doing today? What feels good and fun? Like, where are you going? And then you'll come and be like, oh, I have mental health issues. I feel sad. I feel anxious. Well, yeah, you don't really have a life. You're not really living a life. Your life is bereft of meaning. Of course you'll be anxious, because you'll be like, well, if you don't have a meaningful mode for being in the world, all you will try to do is push the existential dread away with pleasure, which will make it worse, infinitely worse. White wine, hangovers, and anxiety. I don't know how it works for you, but like, my God, if I want to send myself into a death spiral, wine is a great way to go, or whatever other pleasure you could name. So I want you to formulate for yourself, just as I really, like I explained to you, I don't even care about your answer, but I care that you wrestle with the question, how should I live? How should anyone live? How should a person live their lives? And it's a great question. It's a great question to put on the table. Like, how should people live? How could a person live? And then how should a person live? What is good? What is bad? Where do we derive meaning from? They're not easy questions, but we must wrestle with them, or our lives will suck and we will be miserable. Facts. No cap, as the kids say. All facts, no cap. Visceral Gravitas says people should feed the Archons 24/7. I agree. Okay, let me find. Yes, Michel Paradis. The problem now is that most people confuse having judgment or discernment with being judgmental. I just released the third and final section of the Summoning the Self course 2 days ago. And there's like 4 final taboos. The ancient musty clay jars in the crypt that have a scroll inside of them. And there's skulls on the walls and flaming torches. And you must go into the crypt and break these vessels. They're the last vessels. And one of them was, thou shalt not judge. You do judge. We all judge. And you should judge not unconsciously, but consciously, and with discernment, and be balanced, and have a sense of humor, and be merciful and wise and cunning and all of the things that a human should be. But my God, judge. Yes, judge. Being judgmental as a mode of being could be, to use the mental health language, could be like a outer critic that's just stuck on. And then the person just lives by judging others. That's like, here's my personality. I'm extremely judgmental. Well, that's a fucking bummer for the rest of us. It's a real downer, man. So, okay. How to be the real me without fear of others' judgment. How? I have videos on this channel. I have one premiering in an hour, actually, on this channel, on the Richard Granite Philosophy channel, talking about trying to live as our authentic selves and trying to individuate, especially when we're under so much pressure not to. Never has humanity been under as much pressure in terms of propaganda and brainwashing and psychological coercion as we are right now. So if you feel bad, don't worry, kids, you're doing great. This is a vicious attack on your psyche, never before seen by some of the most evil people in history. So if you're still here, well done. That means that there's hope, because there's no ideology here. There's no shaking asses here. There's no sexy bodies to look at here. There's no flashing lights. There's not me just going, yeah, you're all really cool. You're fucking great and you're winning and yay. Because I'm a bit of a dick and I'm not going to do that, because it's not going to help you. It's not going to help you. None of that helps you. Having your ego flattered, being pandered to, it just makes you sicker. Pleasure is a poison in and of itself. Yes, I stand by that. I'm going through the Brothers Karamazov as slowly as as quickly as I can manage, which is pretty slow. And I've been convinced of several things by Mr. Dostoevsky. And one of them is that being psychologically pleasured is extremely dangerous. And we're all extraordinarily psychologically pleasured at the moment, just trapped in echo chambers that stroke our egos. And we never get the hit. You got to spar. You need a left jab to slip through your wonderful fucking guard and smack you in the nose and make you bleed. You need to get a liver shot every once in a while to just keep you humble and keep you on your toes. And we've lost all that. So how do you be the real you without fear of other people's judgment? I don't think that you can be the real you without fear of other people's judgment. Assuming where you're from, assuming where this question comes from, and making assumptions and judgments, I guess, about where you would be to even ask this question. You will fear. And then as you are attempting to be the real you, an extremely difficult process. I mean, you got some of the best minds in history who struggled with it. It was Nietzsche and Kierkegaard struggled with it for years. And there's no do this, do this, do this. Here's the 4-step process. It's a battle. It's an absolute fucking battle. And it's a mess. And there are moments of defeat and humiliation and great shame and drama and upset, because the tribe, there's a video that I just released 3 days ago that's out on this channel. The tribe will not reward you for being you. They're terrified of you being you, of you being your authentic self. So you're in for a fight. If you get the Summoning the Self course, it's on Spartan Life Coach. It goes into greater detail for how to do this, but there's no way of doing it without fear and no way of doing it without pain. You must embrace the fear and the pain. Okay. Potent's here. Hello, Mr. Potent. I think UG is here. Hi, UG. CS says, I think a society without humility will be built on sand and eventually collapse. Yes, we may be very close to collapse at the moment. Visceral Gravitas makes a great point, and this has the scent of incense and sandalwood and Buddhism behind it. Can't we allow others the freedom to judge? This is an interesting perspective. Permit them to judge you. Let it be what it is. Like a good Buddhist, just detach and allow for their judgment. From a Buddhist point of view, they can only ever be judging the Maya of who you are not, They can only ever be judging their projection of you through the veil of Maya anyway. They're not even talking about you. They're talking to their projection of you. It's nice to come to the Buddhist perspective, isn't it? It's nice. It's nice. I like it. It's very, very reassuring. It's cool and it's calm. Emily Polyfax says, no one has a tribe anymore. Life is lived through a fishbowl, social media. Your tribe used to be a family and close physical friends, not fake personalities clamoring for attention. I agree. We are now tribalists. Camila Prada, will there be an Ibiza retreat It's Ibiza. 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 Not Ibiza, not Ibiza, not Ibiza. None of that. Ibiza. Like Barcelona, you know? Well, I just heard 2 hours ago that Ibiza was put on the amber list. So, no. Very, very unlikely. I wouldn't attempt to do it without my... without Brits being able to come here. I don't think. To their projection of you, reminded, thank you. You know, if you're a bit of a nerd for philosophy and you've got half an hour to spare, where was it? I think it was on Wikipedia. It might not be, but it's definitely on page 1 of the search terms on Google. There was one night I had insomnia. Happens a lot. And I wanted to look up Maya, because when we're talking Buddhism and we move it into psychology, one of the problems is, just like with Freudian psychology, there's a lot of words that are mistranslated, and in their clumsy mistranslations that spread like memes, we lose the meaning. Like you'll have heard suffering is brought about by attachment. Well, the word isn't attachment. You can go and look up what the actual word is if you're interested. With Maya, it's either on Wikipedia or or one of the first page results on Google. I'm pretty sure it's Wikipedia. It gives you all the different potential interpretations of the word Maya. This school of Hinduism, that school of Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, with the largest vehicle, the smaller vehicle. Read it. Half an hour. It's fascinating. And these people, they're writing like 4,000, 5,000 years ago. High level of an understanding of subjective perceptions of reality, almost, like philosophically high level, psychoanalytically high level. The idea of there is in these ancient traditions the idea of internal versus external objects and the way in which they can fight. It's fucking high level stuff, man. And that's how I recommend when you read something about philosophy, I say, go read that, lad. Because it's high level, do you know what I mean? Just go and do it. And do you know what? I'll tell you something now. When people say to me and they meet me and they go, why don't you talk in your normal voice, in your normal accent? Are you a fucking fraud? Are you trying to rip people off? And I go, no. You know what it is, lad? It's really hard to explain yourself properly if you're talking in like a fucking tech Scouse accent, and you want to talk psychoanalysis and you want to relate a bit of Freud to a bit of Nietzsche and then talk about the Dharma. Nobody likes it, lads. They're like, what's that? Is it fucking Irish? Is it Scottish? He sounds German in bits with the ich, ach, uch. Nobody likes it, lads. So I don't do it. This is how I talk instead, so that everybody understands me. Okay, I'm going to find a question at random. Let's spin the wheel. There's all the comments there on the side. I can spin it. Here we go. Smile Bulina says, how can you tell if you're following your emotions coming from the mind, thoughts, beliefs, assumptions, or your instinct? Instinct, fear versus weakness. Is instinctive fear an emotion as well? Well, you should be. I understand. I understand what you're saying. I do. Listen to me. I'm telling you. You know me, don't you? You do. I used to have gangsters saying that to me on the door. Little gangsters, little pretend gangsters, plazzy gangsters. When I do door work, they go, let me in, lads. I can't let you in, mate. It's VIP. It's members only. You know me, don't you, lads? I don't know you. I've never seen you. You know me, lads. Yeah, you do. You know our Paulie. I've seen you talking to him. You know me, lads. You do. I don't know you. You do. That fucking hell. You're still not getting in. Doesn't matter if I know you or not. You're not fucking getting in here. It's not gonna fucking happen. Anyway, what was your question? You don't distinguish between, don't be like critical thinking good, emotions bad. I'm much more of a hippie with this one. I think because of the background in martial arts, and I myself am quite a physical person. I'm not a brain in a jar floating around, just absorbing words and spewing words out. So I want integration, because I know if I don't have yin and yang balance in my body, I don't feel good. I could be cranky. I could be tired. I could be like, I just don't feel good. Whereas when I have balance and I'm working, everything's flowing and it feels good. So for me, it's not a question of don't come from emotion, come only from the mind. Even Bruce Lee wasn't into that. What did he say? He didn't say suppress your emotions. He said deliver the movement with, Bruce Lee fans, emotional content. Emotional content, not anger. It is like a finger pointing away to the moon. Don't look at the finger or you'll miss all the heavenly glory. What are we talking about? Yeah, so you've got to have integration, mind and emotions. So I'm the emotional literacy guy, and you'll get like ultra masculine dudes in the manosphere being like, the fuck is this? Why are we talking about emotions? And I'll be like, well, lad, if the emotions are not expressed and integrated properly, you can't think. Because if you're stuck with clagged up, unexpressed, constipated emotions, it actually really, what does it do? It twists your perceptions. It creates emotional dysregulation. So the emotions you're experiencing are not about the here and now. They're about the past. And they're not appropriate to what's happening here and now. And they're not proportionate to what's here and now. And your emotions are doing this. And you're like, well, what good does that do? You're supposed to think clearly. You're supposed to have yourself a nice little Nietzsche moment. I'm going to think a thought now. No, you're fucking not. Because you're bouncing off the walls. That's why 2 days ago, somebody came to me and they said, I try to control my anxiety. Good luck with that. And I do mindfulness meditations, but it makes it worse. And I'm like, well, it will do. It will do. Because mindfulness is great. But if the person is in a shitstorm of a series of emotional flashbacks, mindfulness can make it worse, especially if they've got a toxic superego working. We have to clear the space. We have to clear the space before you can do mindfulness work like that. So my counter question to you, Semolina Bellina, I've forgotten your name. I know it ended in Bellina. Camila Bellina, would be, don't ask whether you're coming from emotion or mind, because I want you to be coming from emotion and mind. I want you to be integrated, and I want your intuition functioning. When your emotions work and you're not clagged up, you're not constipated, the emotions are flowing, you've got access to them, you have your ninja intuitive sense in full flow. You can see when a person is bad and close the book straight away. You can know when a situation is not going anywhere and you terminate it and you get on with your life. When you're emotionally dysregulated, your unconscious, your shadow comes up and there's gaps in your psychic armor and it starts postulating out and popping out here and there. You start, the tendrils are like reaching out to bad people, and the bad people go, great tendrils, I love these things, let's get the fucking hooks in here. You start putting your hopes in people, your hopes in bad situations. I hope it gets okay, and it fucking never does it? Because your intuition's not working. So emotion is good. Emotion that's healthy leads to a capacity for clear thought and mindfulness, detached, crystalline, detached. What do you say for that? You must have space. The Buddhist tradition, where mindfulness was nicked from, well, the Vedantic tradition, strictly speaking, where mindfulness is nicked from, there's a whole religion there. There's a whole philosophy there. There's no such thing in the history of the world, by the way, as just pure meditation. It's never been done before. You know who does it? First world Westerners. Well, you can keep all that philosophy and the religion, blah, 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 blah. No, we just want to sit around doing nothing bit. We just take the mindfulness. They don't even call it meditation. That's how weak we are. It was just, meditation sounds hard. Let's just call it. No. It's meditation. It's not mindfulness. You want all that, but you must have a philosophical underpinning to it. There's no such thing as meditation in a floating space. Ask anyone who knows anything about meditation and say to them, where historically has meditation ever been offered sans some philosophy or religious underpinning first? Nobody sits there thinking nothing for no fucking reason. Never, ever has it ever happened in the history of humanity, but we're trying to do it now because we want to try and fucking pare everything down to nothingness so that it's quick, simple, easy to sell, easy to consume. Buy the t-shirt, let's go home. That's what we're trying to do. And guess what? Doesn't fucking work. And it sends people who are already a little bit mentally ill, much, much mentally iller. If they were taught the philosophy and the religion that went with the different schools of meditation, it wouldn't. We're trying to do everything without God, without religion, and without a proper philosophy, and it's not working. I was always going to get to this point. I may as well do it now. And now I'll go back to your questions. You've got to have some kind of spiritual understanding of the world. You must have a place in the cosmology of the world. And I don't really care what it is. I'm just saying you must have one. Because trying to live without one has led us to here. And here stinks. This is dog shit. This is hot dog shit fried up on a hot sidewalk. It's fucking awful. It's awful, and people are miserable and angry. Bad things will happen now. I can't say to you, choose this God, prepackaged, $39.99. I can't do that. I wish I could. I wish I could come and say, oh, I'm a Christian, I'm a Gnostic, I'm a fucking Cathar, I'm a Sufi, I'm a Hindu. I can't. But I don't live without God. I don't live without God. There's no dogma. Maybe the concept changes. Maybe it changes from morning to night. But I know that I didn't make me. I didn't make me. I don't summon me into being. I'm not prime cause. I'm not what causes the birds to fly or the clouds to move or any of this. And that gives me humility, which gives me a little bit of space, which gives me the moment to think, ooh, that's interesting. I didn't do this. I'm not causing this. Something else is causing this. Now, in that space, just that little bit of philosophy and that tiny little bit of religion that I just gave you, you put mindfulness in that space, it's a very different experience. It's a very different experience. We're going to have to find a way to bring, I wouldn't even say religion. I'm not even going to say spirituality, but I will say God. We have to bring God back into our lives somehow, some way, non-naively. I've always laughed at that and said, I don't know how you do that. Because you're not reading the Quran, the Torah, or the Talmud, the Tanakh, the Bible to me, and having me listen to that with a straight face and not challenge anything. I go, this is the rules. This is what you do, Richard. Yeah, good fucking luck. It's not going to work. But maybe we can do it non-naively. Maybe we can find a way back to inviting God back into our lives. Final point on that, and then I'll go back to your questions, and then I'll round it out with this subject. If there is a space where you have an appreciation that you're not God and that you didn't call all of this into being, you don't cause the moment to be. You're breathing now. Who inspires you? That's what breathing is. Inspire. Who inspired you? Who put life in you? Who breathed life into you? You? No. Your mum? No. No. Your dad? Nope. So a moment's reflection that we are not gods. What a relief. What a relief. Because if we're gods, we're infinitely powerful. If we're gods, we're responsible for all this. Oh my God. Oh, wow. And then you have a neurotic response. The question, Bolina, Semolina, is not, should I be coming from emotion or from mind? The question is this a neurotic response? Neurotic in the old sense, in the not ancient, but the 1900s to the 1960s sense of neurotic. Is this what we would say in modern parlance? Is this coming from mental illness? Or is this an authentic response? It's hard to know if you're emotionally dysregulated. You must work on your emotional re-regulation. I teach a whole course on how to emotionally re-regulate people. You can either get the free course, How to Stop Emotional Flashbacks, on my website, spartanlifecoach.com, or you can go from here to the Fortress Mental Health Protection System on YouTube, and that teaches you how to do all that in a step-by-step process. Then you will be able to recognize, you'll be able to go, is this about now? Or is this about my dad? Is this about my childhood? Is this about my mother? Is this about the fact that I never got over my last boyfriend, my last girlfriend, my husband, my wife, whoever, some previous trauma? We have imaginations as human beings. What a wonderful thing. But we are burdened with memories, strong memories. We have a powerful mind. It can recollect trauma to a nicety, to a nuance, in a way that can torture us every day, again and again and again, as though it's happening today. We must do something about that. We can't live pretending that's not what we are. We're not dumb animal robots that repeat ancient trauma to remind ourselves of where the unsafe spaces are. I don't like that. I'm a god. No, you're not. You're not the Messiah. You're just a naughty boy. Back to your questions. Okay. Okay, hit me with a question. Have it end in a question mark. Here's an interesting question about something a little more prosaic. What did you make of the racist abuse of England's black players when they missed the penalties, and then the backlash to the white England supporters that had nothing to do with this racism? I don't care about football at all. And one of the things I said in the beginning was there are things that we have normalized in our culture that I'm waking up to that are completely bizarre and unjustifiable. And then other things that we should be allowed to do that we're not allowed to do. One of the things that we accept in our culture for some reason, and it's across the world, is a certain amount of violence and hooliganry that goes with sport. I don't know why we do that. I don't know anything about what happened. I didn't watch the game. I think football is a game for children. I'm not going to endorse the obsession, the infantile obsession with things that do not matter. I'm very much with there's a piece I found by Alistair Crowley, of all people, who's taking the piss out of people's obsession with football. I think it's nonsense. I think it's utter nonsense. So you're asking me a question that's along the tree, that's on a branch with a twig, and I'm at the roots going, just don't do this. Just don't do it. It's all tribal. Am I surprised there's racism in a game that prods the monkey brain of humans, some intelligent, some less so, that is about tribalism? It's Liverpool versus Manchester. It's Spain versus Bulgaria. It's versus. It's a battle. It's my tribe versus your tribe. Push, push, push. And yes, we find excitement in that. And yes, we find pleasure in that. And yes, we find fear in that. We are biologically xenophobic. We fear the other. We fear foreigners. Why? Because they could bring disease. They could be the herald of an army that then, comes and rapes everybody and tortures the survivors to death. They could represent something awful. That's in us. That's biology. And football and other sporting games, they push these buttons, and all the fucking dumb monkeys watching it let themselves get excited by it. I'm just like, you just need your buttons pushed. You're obviously a bit numb then. Oh, this is how we bond. There's no other fucking way that you could bond but like this. The chanting, the shouting, the violence, the mass movement. It's war. It's war and it's tribalism. Am I surprised that the type of people who are into that and who are having those buttons pushed, because in any group of people, you're going to have scumbags. Of course, you're going to have people who take it too far. You're going to have people with low impulse control who take everything too far. There were black players on our team. Apparently, they didn't perform well. Then there was racist abuse of them. Well, yeah, because idiots exist, and there is hatred in the human heart. The other thing on this Navajo channel that you must watch, the Ancient Navajo Teachings channel, said it's not politically correct, but I love it. They teach humans are not good. See, Yeah, everybody thinks, oh, I go to a head shop, I buy some crystals. There's pictures of First Nations people. There's the Cherokee over there. There's the Pawnee over there. Oh, they were in touch with nature. They lived in accordance with life. And they should be all nice and sweet and loving. Nope. Nope. People are evil. Humans are evil. And you have to control them. They have to be controlled. That's why there is Thanksgiving. That's why you have rituals that bring you to appreciation and gratitude. And you say thank you. Every morning when you wake up, you say thank you. You remind yourself, Father Sky, Mother Earth, I didn't build this. I'm here for a time. Thank you. Thank you. Everything is a Thanksgiving. Everything is a gesture of appreciation. Because if not, yes, we descend into egotism. Is this real racism? Do these people actually really hate black people? These white people, do these working class? Oh, they might not be working class. They're just white guys who really hate black guys. Maybe. Or maybe they're just finding something vile and disgusting to do. Because that's not all they do. They piss everywhere. They throw chairs through shop windows. They fight with each other. They stab each other. Everything that they do is like, bleh. It's like, it's this expression of excess of aggression. Are they right? Well, is the content of what they said racist? Absolutely. That's not racist. If that ain't racist, nothing's racist. But are we getting distracted? I mean, racism is such a good way of distracting people because, straight from the unconscious. Straight. I already have a file on this. Let me pull it up. Here we go. This is what I have to say about it. Shut the fuck up for a second. Breathe. Look at this situation new with fresh eyes. What is this? Ignorance, tribalism, aggression. They were disappointed. What did they do? They did something vile. Did they throw a rock through a shop window? Yes, physically and metaphorically. Oftentimes, I used to say this on when I did nightclub security. I don't think in the real world, outside of the internet, there is that much authentic racism. I really don't. I did nightclub security, New Zealand, Tenerife, which if you don't know, it's an island, Spanish, former Spanish colony off Africa, London, Liverpool. What else did I do? What other country was I working in where I did security work? I can't remember. All different backgrounds, all different ethnicities, different clubs. I had different partners. I've had Nigerian, Jamaican, Congolese, Ghanaian bosses, not bosses, but like head dorm. I've had head dorm from all over the world. I'm not sure that racism really exists in contact with the other. I think the other needs to not be there. So there's this moment on the Ancient Navajo Teachings channel where he talks about greed and individualism and people never being satisfied with anything. And he says, this is what white brother brought to the land. And I was like, whew, damn, yeah, you feel that one. Is that racist? Is that racist or is that funny? Is that racist or is that true? Is that racist or is that an acceptance that whilst we are brothers, humans are not intrinsically good. They can be good. And this is what the elder says. We should seek joy, we should seek happiness, but we must work at being good. So how do you deal with that? I don't think there's much racism out in the actual world. And where it is, you must have a degree of luxury. When you're under pressure, you're in a door team. I had a situation once. There's only one situation where I felt truly under threat, and it was actually between football fans. They were from England and from Wales. Some fucking 3rd division, 4th division team. Saturday afternoon, I used to work for an Albanian firm. Sunday afternoon, they called me in the morning. They said, we need one more person on this. I was like, what is it? It was like, oh, it's a local football event. Just a local. Oh, yeah, sound. So I turned up there, and the fucking police, there was 8 riot vans there because these Welsh fans were coming down in 4 coaches, and they'd openly stated they were coming down to do some of the England fans in. I was like, oh shit. The guy who was running the head of security, he placed us around the football place evenly. There was no partition between the England and Welsh fans. And I was looking at this and I was like, I don't want to criticize your authority, but I kind of feel like I'm standing in amongst a bunch of families eating sandwiches. And I kind of feel like the problem's going to be where those drunk lads are with the other drunk lads who hate each other. And we just held our positions, and then it went out over the radio. The code red went out over the radio, and you could just see bodies flying. So we ran over, and we were the partition. So there's like, again, it's like it's an Albanian firm, but it's Albanians, Nigerians, Poles, majority Albanian. We had travelers. We had travelers working with us. Poles, Czechs. Nobody gave a fuck about color there. We were like like a phalanx, like a Greek phalanx. We were shoulder to shoulder. I've never been in anything like that before, and I never want to be in again because I've never been frightened. I've been scared in fights before, but this really jolted me. And we were 4 deep, and the police wouldn't get involved. The police with the riot kit stood at the side. When the Welsh attacked, it was the Welsh attacking the English because the English didn't have much of a firm there. They would try and jump over the top of us to get to the English, and they were insane. They were insane with hatred, cheap cocaine, and about 4 hours of drinking on the bus, and they were being watched by each other, and it was just total madness. But there was no colour in the mosh pit. There was just them and us. Are they trying to kill us? Are they potentially going to try and shank us? Yes. Okay. You're my mate. If you're wearing a black jacket with a yellow security bib on it, you're my tribe right now. I really think you have to have a space of luxury. If there's no space of luxury, it doesn't really exist. I don't think. Not in the way that we talk about it. Frequently, it's classism. It's about control. But is it really hating somebody because their skin is brown or pink or white or dark brown? Or I don't know, man. I really am not. I've seen people in all kinds of situations under all kinds of circumstances. I'm not convinced. I think it's a tool. I think it's a useful tool. I think it's a rock you throw at somebody, and and you will do it even if you're quite progressive and woke. Like if I do something to hurt you, you will probably find yourself in the first few moments of your anger uncharitably saying, if you're not white, you'll be like, white bastard. If you're not English, you'll be like, you English cunt. If you're English and white, you'll be like, you Scouse bastard. That's just where your brain goes to, because that's how we are. We're tribal. We're tribal by nature. Racist by nature. Hateful by nature, sure. Hateful, vengeful, greedy, resentful, sure. Classist, sure. Power hungry, sure. Everything else, I put it on the table. I went on a long time about that. Damn. I relived the moment, man. I was there. That's my trauma. It came out of me. The police didn't help us. Fuckers. Well, the lads would come over the top. They'd jump. They just flew. It was like fucking Tasmanian devils. And then they would collapse over the front line, and then they would either fight the second and third line or they'd give up, and then you would sling them out the side past 5, 6, 7 lads to the police, and then the police took them out a hole in a fence and shoved them in the van. That was my lived experience. You've just heard my lived experience. And so this is because of that one time. We should build an entire policy. Okay. For those of us with CPTSD, where did that go? Oh, there you are. For those of us with CPTSD, kindness has always been conditional. That's an interesting statement. For those of us with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, kindness has always been conditional. I'll surge ahead. I'm not sure about that. Okay. How do you shift that perception and start showing unconditional kindness to yourself? I have so many courses on this. The cheapest one is the free one over on Fortress Mental Health. I do have a product that's coming out. The course that's coming out should have been today. It's finished. I have somebody working on the final touches for the page on the website. I think it'll be tomorrow now. It's called the Inner Guide course. So what you can have is you can have a twofold problem. One is to do with executive functioning, which we've never discussed before. It's based on feedback I got from on the Inner Circle group that I did recently. Thank you for your question. I will tell you now how to do this, even though I'm taking your question off the screen. So Visceral Gravitas said on one of the video clips he did of me, Visceral Gravitas does different like funny clips of me, and he said in the comments that he felt like I had superhuman levels of self-discipline. So the work I train other people to do, they can't do, but I can do. And then in a similar timeline, in sort of a month, on the Inner Circle group thing that we had to shut down, there was a lot of people showing up there, and they're like, how long do I have to be strong for? How much longer is this healing gonna? And they get really fucking angry with themselves. And I put the two things together, and I was like, oh, I might have missed a trick here. So what can I do that other people might not be able to do? Is it just the self-discipline thing? And I narrowed it down to two things that I'd not spoken about before. One is executive function. There's the executive function of neurology, of the flesh, of the brain, and there's the executive function of psychology. There are crossovers. It's a very interesting topic. But I'm talking about executive function in psychology, which means it's like 7 different things that you can do. If you're emotionally regulated, if you can retain information in the short term, the long term, if you can apply new skill sets, if you can see a job through to its end, you can look this up. Just look it up on Wikipedia. It would take you 7 minutes to read the whole thing. You'd grasp it in no time. So I went, I actually think even at my sickest, my executive function was still operating probably about 50%, even when I was very, very sick, very, very mentally ill. What I would think of was probably what we would have said in older times was a nervous breakdown. When I was 33, 34, my executive function was still 40% operational. And I was like, I don't think the other people I don't think it is. I think their executive function is probably at like 20, 30%, which means if I teach you, if I say to you, every time you feel stress, if you take this finger and you lick it and then you apply it to your right temple and go, nee, na, na, no, no, you'll feel better. Why was that the first few bars of the Soviet national anthem? What the fuck's wrong with me? Na, nee, na, na, no, no, nee, na, na. Do not make a clip of that, Visceral Gravitas. No. No, no, no. If I told you to do that, and for some reason it worked, it probably would. But you are operating at 20% executive function and you can't remember. You're just like looking at me going, Richard's talking. He's probably judging me. He probably thinks I'm a piece of shit. Have I got odd socks on? And you're gone. Then this technique I showed you disappears. And if I go off into like here's the psychoanalytic concept of the superego and the superego injunctions, it will show up like this as introjects and all these new words and blah, blah, blah. And your executive function is 20%. Really, I'm not helping you at that point. I'm actually hurting you. I'm actually taking you the other way. So that was number one. I think my executive function has always worked like a wheel that's about to fall off, but it's just there. So I do think I had an advantage. I think visceral gravitas is right. I think I have always had an advantage over other people in my Cptsd recovery. And number two, because of the upbringing with like tons of self-help books, because of my, let's just say family of origin, and spirituality and Anthony Robbins and self-hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, and then the Buddhism, and then the psychedelics. Number two, so number one was executive function. Number two, good relationship with the self. If you have a good relationship with yourself, you're okay. You're okay. Visceral Gravitas says, RG is special, super special. We are not worthy. I'm not special. That's not true. But you aren't worthy. That's true. That's what everybody should take from this. If you have a good relationship with yourself, it's the glue that holds all the efforts to heal together. If your relationship with yourself is just appalling, like you just are merciless with self-abuse, with no sense of humor, no awareness whatsoever, you're in real trouble. The nuance, I would add, that's psychedelic drug related to that second point is something I was in a discussion with Potent with the other day. It's an interview on Potent the Rockstar's channel about psychedelics, which was psychedelics splits the mind apart into its parts and makes it visible. So you end up with a fractured sense of self, but not in a neurotic way. You know that there are different parts of you speaking to you because you've seen them. You're like, this one's Mr. Jester, this one's Mr. Grumpy, this one's Mr. Judge, and you feel them, you hear them, you see them. So you take the introjects less seriously. You still take them seriously. It still hurts, but say less. Like if you've got an arm lock on me in jiu-jitsu and it's in deep, but I have, maybe my arm's just sweaty. We're doing it no gi and I just have a sweaty arm. You'd be like, well, what good is less going to do you? Less can be the difference between a submission or an escape. If I'm slightly sweaty, I could spin it. Maybe I can, and I can, because you see that in fights, right? They pull out even when the arm lock is nearly on. What's the difference that made a difference? A shit ton of determination and some gap, little gap. So the difference can be minor, but that small gap can make all the difference. So if the executive function is working, if the relationship with the self is good, you won't have this strong, like, impatient and fight response, but it's a fight response delivered to the self. It's very common. It's very, very common. And I'm going to release this course. And I'm going to be like, look, this is a healing catalyst, because if you do this, you will heal faster. You'll have a better relationship with your therapist. If you're reading a book, more of it will go in. If you're doing a course, you'll retain more of it. If you don't, and this part of you is hyperinflamed and your response is hyperinflamed, it's a fight response to you, you'll be very angry with yourself. You'll get pissed off with your coach or your therapist, and you'll be pissed off with the course. And you start writing people off. You just be like, that shit, that didn't work, that didn't work, that didn't work. It's no good, man. It's no good. So there are methods already there on Fortress Mental Health to answer your question, questioner. But this new course is out tomorrow, and everything I do that's new has less jargon in. Everything I do that's new is trying to find a way to deliver the skill set faster with the least amount of triggering possible. It'll be out tomorrow. Yeah. Antigone Papa says, well, you hating yourself isn't the way out your problem. You need yourself to get out of them. Exactly. Just got here. Have we discussed milkshakes yet? No, not yet. But if you bring a milkshake, I will drink your milkshake. Because, Eli, if you have a straw and I have a straw, do say it. There it is, Eli, you sniveling boy. Way to alienate people who haven't watched There Will Be Blood. Why did you stop the membership site? I realized that it was a mistake in week 3. Couldn't police it. Didn't want to police it. Had no will to police it. I'm not policing adults. I'm not telling adults, don't say that. Just say no. Put that in your mouth. Don't put that in your mouth. Put it down, please. Thank you. I've told you, haven't I? Didn't I say? Do you see the rules? Do you see the rules? What does rule number 1 say? It's next to the picture of the chicken. Can you say chicken? I'm not doing that. You're all adults. You're all adults. You all knew what the rules were, and people just flagrantly ignored the rules because they didn't feel like sticking to them. And I was like, well, I can't impose sanctions. You're not 4 years old. The only thing I can do is close the site down and then just say, you didn't feel like sticking to the rules, so I didn't feel like running the site. It was a very strange experience for me. It was a very upsetting experience for me. The way people acted on the forum, I was appalled by. I was absolutely shocked because I've run forums before. I've been running forums since 2005, which is an amazing feat for somebody who's as computer illiterate as me in the self-defense community. And I've run forums on this topic before, but I've never seen quite that scale of behavior and attitude in a space that is ostensibly for people looking to overcome trauma. And I just thought, okay, I'm not going to tell people off. I'm not going to release a video going, listen, guys, I told you the rules. There's a book. Nope. Just close it down. It's too risky. We have people threatening each other. We caught the posts quickly, screen capped them, deleted them, but there was people openly threatening each other within 4 weeks on a site that is ostensibly for people recovering from Cptsd. And I said, no, we can't do this. It's partly the cultural zeitgeist. It's the moment we're in right now. People's aggression levels are dialed right the way up, really, really high. It's explosive. We're in a very explosive moment in human history, I think. And so I just thought, oh no, well, I'm not. What if somebody says something and then somebody else hurts themselves and it's on my forum? You've either got to have people policing it all the time or you just let it go. So I just thought I'd let it go. It's safer that way. I can still talk to people. Do you listen to Muji or Sadhguru? I do not. Do you ever fully recover from Cptsd? I don't know. I mean, I'm only me. I can tell you that, what am I now, 43? So 10 years ago, I was absolutely fucking miserable. And you can go on the Spartan Life Coach channel and go back to the videos that I shot in 2013, where I'm like considerably heavier than I am now and just broken. I'm just a broken individual. So fully recover, I don't know, because I have no sample to work from. I can only speak solipsistically from me. You can certainly get an awful lot better. Bum, bum, bum. Psychology is art alchemy in the now. Wowie. Oh God. Come on, real town boy. Bull's piss. It's to increase my testosterone levels. I drink pee-pee of bull. Can you comment on original sin and how it might affect us all with reference to racism and contemporary Western society in general? Well, you're talking original sin is from the Garden of Eden, which I've had a bit of a wrestle since 2000. I wrote a book in 2009 about the origins of Christianity, and it never got published because the publisher says it was shit. No, he didn't say it. He was very kind. He was a very nice man. He told me in very polite English ways that it probably wasn't quite up to standard. And the Garden of Eden, the story of the Garden of Eden, the story of the concept of original sin fascinates me. I won't get into like what I think about it right now, but original sin is not my takeaway from that. It's not to be understood personally. This is my personal opinion. I don't think the writers of that story meant it to be understood that people were naughty and that God punished them because of the original naughtiness. I suspect it's much more unified than that. It is from a perspective where we're in a much closer relationship with God, and that where God is more in the world than we're used to now. So the Christian perspective, you have the Jewish tradition, close to God, with God. Christians, God became further away. This is painting in very broad brushstrokes because it's not true of every sect. God became further away, and then in Islam, God gets closer again. God, depending on the tradition, God becomes it's almost pantheism. God becomes everything, to the extent that everything that there is there because it is the will of God, and it submits to the will of God. Hence Islam, hence Muslims. Muslims are ones who submit to the will of God. Islam is submission. God summons into being. He speaks and he writes things into being, and he's present. For Christians, he's a little bit further away, and he is a bit more of a judge. I don't think that story is I made humans, I told them not to do it, and they did a thing, and then I punished them, and then they were bad, and that's, I'm just like, I don't buy that. I think it's more of a story of what happened. And the codex I would offer as a hypothesis is, when in the ancient Jewish tales where it says, and God said, that should be understood as, and it was so. And it was so. So there is no original sin. It is simply that human beings that existed at the will of God evolved. It's the story of evolution. It's the story of our evolution, of our coming out of a state of non-awareness, more animalistic state, to a state of awareness. Terence believes, of course, we let Terence believe whatever he wants. He's Terence. He can believe whatever he wants. That it's that the fruit in the Garden of Eden was psychedelics. I like that idea, and when I used to take acid and think about the Garden of Eden, I was convinced by that idea as well. But I think that the scripture tells us what it was. It was knowledge. It was experience. They lived. They ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge. They didn't eat of the fruit of eternal life. And through eating of the tree of knowledge, they became experienced, and they grew in understanding of the world through living. And when they understood more of the world through living, they understood more of who they were. So there is no original sin. There is only consciousness and the birth of consciousness. In that context of the Garden of Eden, the birth of consciousness and racism, I don't believe there are racist children. I've seen children, my little nephews, when they play with their next door neighbors, they have no sense of this classification system called race. It's evidently they have no fear. They have no sense of awkwardness or horror or guilt or apprehension or resentment, or all of that must be learned. So they're innocent. Children are still in the Garden of Eden. Animals are still in the Garden of Eden because they're innocent. They don't know. They're not capable of moral depravity because they don't know anything. They can make mistakes. They can cause pain. A tiger can cause pain, but it's not moral depravity. Only humans are capable of moral depravity. And racism is an adult's game. It's adulting. It's in the worst sense of adulting. It's a power game. There are no power games amongst children other than you're riding the tricycle and I want my go now, or you have a candy, so I want a candy. That's the only power games that they know. So in the context of original sin, the Garden of Eden, and the birth of consciousness, these things are learned. They require adult language to explain why this person is not your brother, why this person is not your sister. Oh, but I like them. They're fun to go up the slide with. No, listen to me. I know you like going on the slide with them, but you must understand the centuries of adult occurrences that did not involve you, that actually didn't involve me either. They were committed by people long dead to people who are now long dead, but it matters very, very much right now that you don't play on the slide with that other child. And if you can tell me that when you process that concept, not with your mind, but with your heart and your emotions and in your body, that makes any kind of fucking sense to you, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I really don't. You must be so poisoned with darkness and demonic ideology that you can no longer see the simplest things. And that's a very, very sad state to be in. Very, very sad state. I will take one more question and then I will finish. Should psychotherapists have exorcised all their demons before they enter the field? How would we know? How would we know? They're just humans. Who would assess them? Other humans. Higher humans. How would they be higher? How would we assess the higher humans that assess the lower humans? It would be very difficult. I mean, in a sense, not to sound like Zizek, but in a sense, isn't this ideology at its purest? Zizek is a psychotherapist, or is he just a psychoanalyst? I think he might have a degree in psychoanalysis, but he's not. No, he's not. He's not a psychotherapist. But he could be if he chose to be. He has the qualifications in psychoanalysis to do it. Should they exercise their demons? Yes, I can take your question naively. Yes, as much as possible, as much as humanly possible. Everybody who seeks to work with other human beings in any guiding or healing context should do the utmost they can to exercise their demons first, to do the 7 things that I gave you as advice at the beginning of this talk, to make their unconscious conscious, to move from chaos to order, to be active and creative and not passive as much as they can. But we must all accept in all humility that we are just all humans, and sometimes a conversation with another human being is helpful. So non-naively, I would challenge the notion of psychotherapists. And I'm not saying psychotherapists don't exist, but when we create a category and we write on this side of the box, psychotherapists belong in this category, are we adding a level of meaning that is really only a simulation? That's really only a fantasy. Does that have meaning? Does it mean something if somebody's a psychotherapist? Maybe. What does it mean? I'm not sure. I don't know what the designation entails exactly. I've met psychotherapists and fully fledged psychiatrists who are published. One woman I met who's a published psychiatrist got drunk at a seminar of mine in the break, and I specifically told everybody there not to touch alcohol. She deliberately and flagrantly disobeyed me, got drunk, and started abusing people. She's not an ex-psychiatrist. She's a current psychiatrist. She's quite famous in there, north of me, up north of Liverpool. Yeah, she did that. I've met psychotherapists who are so emotionally dysregulated they can barely sit still. I've met clinicians who are completely consumed by their own shadow. So that's not good. Obviously, you should be in the best place that you can. Maybe we should take psychotherapists off the pedestal and psychotherapy off the pedestal. why do we even need psychologists and psychotherapists? How fucking fractured have our communities become? What do psychotherapists tell you that makes you feel better that you wouldn't get by just getting more attention from your tribe, or having a better sense of purpose within your tribe, or a better sense of contribution within other people? I don't know the answers to those questions, but I think those questions are worth asking. It can seem to me like it is better to not proclaim to know better unless this has been done. Yeah, it is better to not proclaim to know better unless that has been done. But there's no actual way of measuring the exorcism of demons. Unfortunately, we don't have a thermometer. We don't have a. That's the demons. They made me kick it. We don't actually have a thermometer for demon measurement, so that there would be no way of knowing, unfortunately. Somebody wrote racism is whitewashing Jesus. Yes. White Jesus, eh? Blonde, blue-eyed Palestinian Jesus from Galilee. All right. Well, that went in all kinds of directions, didn't it? I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope it was useful. We have a premiere on this channel at 10 o'clock Central European time, which is in 25 minutes. So if you have time, please come back and join me in the live chat for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. And I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Cheers.